You're watching the first News Hour debate on Times Now Super Prime Time.
Now, I just want to start by saying that over the last 24 hours, so many facts have emerged which make it quite clear that this is not an odd instance of American justice being implemented in a perverse manner, or rather, should I say, injustice in a perverse manner. This is a gigantic American conspiracy in which several layers of American authorities and government have been involved in the deliberate and knowing persecution of an Indian diplomat who actually is a victim rather than an accused. I wonder why. Well, joining us tonight is, we've got different points of view. Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary, and C Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Sheshadri Chari heads the Foreign Affairs Cell of the BJP. Pavan Verma is a former diplomat, now active in politics, but till recently a senior serving diplomat. Mr. Verma, welcome. We have with us from Seattle, Tahmina Watson. She's a legal expert on immigration. She's joining us from Seattle in the United States. My first question is to Ray Locker, who's the national security editor of the USA Today. Mr. Locker, if you've been following this case, why do you think so many American officials, and there we have Sarosh Zaiwalla, who's a senior partner of Zaiwalla Co Solicitors. He's actually blaming the Indian government and the Indian reaction to this. Mr. Zaiwalla, welcome. First question to you, Ray Locker. Why have the American officials joined in such a great conspiracy to humiliate an Indian diplomat in the way this has happened? I mean, this cannot be a mistake. There has to be a well thought out conspiracy behind this. Why was this allowed to happen?
I really don't think it's a conspiracy before the arrest happened. I think what's happened is, and as a journalist, I can't offer an opinion on the quality of the work that's been done, but I will say this, it's tremendously embarrassing. And I think often when you have an embarrassing situation in which law enforcement or any other agency has committed a mistake, they circle the wagons, they try to defend themselves and offer a variety of explanations for why they did what they did. But clearly, when you look at the facts of the case, everybody knew that she was an Indian diplomat in the United States. That was known before the arrest was made. And what I don't understand is why the Marshal Service, the State Department, didn't have a special procedure for her and take her to a place where she was not treated like a normal criminal. Because
no, Mr. Locker,
we see what's happening.
Locker, with respect, Mr. Locker, what you are doing is you are trying to say that this was just the handling of this case towards the end by the marshals was wrong. I would respectfully, completely and totally disagree with you, and I'll tell you why, Mr. Locker. We can engage in this debate. Okay. I've been saying this since yesterday, and tonight it is proven that on 7 or 8 occasions since June, at the official levels, the Indian government, the officials, the embassy, the government of India, the foreign ministry of India have all been filing reports against the maid on behalf of the diplomat. Not one of them gets a single one-word, one-sentence response from your police or your government authorities. So the question is not how she was treated.
Well, that's a terrible situation.
Pardon me?
If that's happened, that's a terrible situation.
No, but it has happened.
The fact is, the stakes between the United States and India are high.
No, that's why I'm saying it's a conspiracy.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to call it a conspiracy, but I would say this. Well, the relationship between the United States and India is one that's valuable. And for this to have happened, it's quite inexcusable. Well, and I can't defend it.
No, I understand, but I think we need to talk about the conspiracy angle. Yes, Tahmina, were you wanting to come in? Yes, you were saying something.
I wanted to sort of perhaps give a background explanation of what may have happened in the investigation. I obviously am not involved in the case and I don't know anything about the investigation, but from a legal standpoint, my guess is the following steps would have happened. For the maid to have ensured to get a visa in the first place, the diplomat, and any diplomat, would have to provide an employment letter to the embassy. The embassy has a duty to follow the law before issuing a visa. The requirements of the law is that the employment contract should specify what the job duties are, what the hours are.
Tahmina, we know all of that. We know all of that. Now let's apply some common sense to this, and the question is this: she goes missing, okay? She goes missing, and by the way, she has gone for a visa interview, and she knows what she has to be paid. right? But we're not getting into that. She goes missing. After she goes missing, she tries to blackmail the diplomat. And she goes and reaches out to a lawyer. The lawyer then makes a mysterious call.
Arnab, I have to come in here again.
No. Well, this is the fact. Let me complete. Tahmina. She asks a lawyer to call the diplomat, and the lawyer refuses to identify herself but mysteriously goes into this blackmail mode and says, I will offer a settlement which includes a huge amount of money, and you have to help us get permanent residence in the United States of America. So the diplomat, therefore it is proven, is the victim of blackmail.
Is exploiting the law, I don't know.
But it is a fact. How can you may not know, but the American authorities ought to know. They were told about it.
What they are going by is a complaint. My guess is they're going by the complaint.
No, you see. No. 1 second. Here we get into sticky territory again, Tahmina. Here. Now what happens is, listen. On the 1st of July, and I want to get in Sarosh on this because Sarosh, I think I have a release from you, which I think is extremely unfair on this diplomat.
Yeah. Can I?
No, 1 sec. Sarosh, let me tell you this. On the 1st of July, on the 5th of July, the Deputy Consul General registers a complaint with the New York Police Department for a crime of aggravated harassment against her. Zero action is taken by the New York Police Department, by which time it is clear that the American authorities have decided to make an example of the diplomat. I don't know why. I hope it's not racism, but I can't rule it out, Sarosh.
Can I just give you my answer? I think that the whole controversy is blown up. Can I just say this? The whole controversy, in my view, as a fellow Indian, I say that, living abroad, is blown up out of all proportion. What has happened is that there has been, I don't know all the facts, but I don't see any reason why an Indian diplomat should not abide by the rule of law principle and abide by the law. Now, if the New York police has made a mistake, then she might have a claim for damages against them. But in today's modern world, where everybody is equal, the power of the individual is as much as the power of the state. But I don't see why this big fuss about the diplomacy.
No, it's not. There's no big fuss. I saw this. I saw this release of yours, and may I say so with the utmost of respect to you, Sarosh. I think you say here, and I'll read out what you say. You say the loud adverse reaction in India to the arrest of Devyani, who is India's Consul General, she's Deputy Consul General, by the way, in New York, is ill-conceived. In today's changing world, there is no reason diplomats in India or from any other country should not act in accordance with the local laws of the host country. You go on to say, since the Vienna Convention regarding diplomatic immunity was agreed, the world has changed, etc., etc. But the terrible part where you add, which I take severe objection to, Sarosh, is where you say the Indian mindset of servant culture needs to change alongside the changing world.
Very important.
Really? No. Why do you call it an Indian mindset? What about the American mindset? What about the American mindset?
Let me tell you this, that living in the West, I do... there is an anti-slavery feeling all over the world now, at least in the Western culture. And this servant culture, there is no reason why we should not change.
First of all, she's not a slave. But she's not a slave. She goes...
No, she's a servant.
She goes... 1 minute. She goes on an agreement and you expect her to be paid more than what the diplomat gets. She works for 7 months. As a lawyer, you should ask yourself, why did she not raise the issue in 7 months? When she disappears, she approaches a lawyer and then blackmails the diplomat saying, give me money and help me become a permanent resident of the United States of America. When she went to the US, tell me, Sarosh, did she say that part of my service conditions is that you have to make me a resident of the United States of America? This is a classical case, Sarosh, of a domestic help who's trying to exploit the situation, blackmail her employer, run away, run away, and then blackmail the employer into giving them a lot of money.
Arnab, I must come in here. There are always...
Yeah, but then the answer to that, can I say...
No, yes,
the answer to that is that we must take action against the girl who has done that.
No, but it wasn't done, right?
Government cannot be blamed for that.
So I go into this point. So I'm glad I have got all of you on the same page. You have all agreed today that therefore action should be taken against the girl. I want to read out here. We requested help from the US Embassy in this matter. The Foreign Minister of India says the US Embassy could not or did not provide any feedback. The husband of the lady diplomat files a report with the NYPD for theft of cash, BlackBerry phone, 2 SIM cards, Metro card, documents, contract signed, receipt books, working hour log, etc. There is no action. The American authorities simply say, forget it. We can't help you. And after that, when this lady is going to drop her children in school, they pick her up like she's a nobody, take her and they strip search her. Do you know, Sarosh, what a strip search and a cavity search are? I don't want to get into details of that, but I think it's abominable behavior by the Americans to be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
May I come in, please?
Yes, Tahmina.
I do think for your viewers, it's important to understand.
We must make a complaint and the proceedings must be taken against the girl.
Exactly. There are people who will exploit the law, but the laws of this country must be abided by.
Why does Tahmina, the diplomat is a victim. The diplomat is a victim of the diplomat, Tahmina, is a...
In this situation, it would be argued likely that Devyani's actions were outside the scope of her duty.
No, 1 second. Now I'm going to open... now I think we've nicely opened up the debate. Tahmina, Pavan Verma, what do you think? Pavan, from what it appears to me, the lady diplomat, Tahmina,
I don't know. But
Tahmina, let me tell you this. First of all, Tahmina, let me tell you this. First, and I'm going now opening up the debate to our participants from India. The question is, the lady diplomat is therefore a victim of extortion. She's a victim of blackmail. Then she's the victim of racist abuse, abject humiliation, indignity thrown upon her in a manner that no civilized country would allow. And after that, I'm sorry to say, an arrogant America thinks it can get away by doing nothing. It wouldn't dare to do this with China, Germany, the United Kingdom, or any other country. And it's time it's taught a lesson. Pavan Verma, what do you take the... Ray?
Hold on.
Why do you want me to hold on? Pavan is coming in. Pavan.
Well, you know, the fact...
Employer.
The sad fact is the United States and New York law enforcement has done this with people from other countries.
1 second.
Is the question directed to me?
Yes, Pavan.
Arnab, this particular incident involving Devyani clearly shows the arrogance of power. It is not about the legalese of the Vienna Convention. It is not even so much about the minutiae of what happened with the domestic staff. It is about unacceptably uncivilized behavior against a senior envoy of a friendly country. And let me add, the laws that are being cited by your other panelists, they are completely arbitrary, unwarranted, condescending, intrusive intrusions into affairs which should be the domain of the sending country and the envoy. It has become increasingly a practice in America and across many countries in Europe to begin to impose on domestic staff which has traveled with an official passport and is part of the overall facilities of an envoy an impossible standard of remuneration and other kinds
absolutely,
of
and so well said. Yeah.
I respectfully disagree. You know,
so
1 second. On what point do you disagree? 1 second.
In this particular case, in this
country.
No, 1 second, Tahmina. Tahmina, can I tell you something? No, 1 second. Tahmina, first of all, can you just let Pavan Verma complete, please? Because I can take you on point by point on the subhuman manner in which the American government allows its diplomats to treat their domestic staff. Subhuman manner. And I will show facts to you, Tahmina, which will make you take back your position today. American diplomats are the world's #1 experts in treating their domestic help all across the world worse than, slaves were treated in your own country till just 4 decades back. Don't let me remind you of how America treated slaves for centuries. But I'll tell you today, the modern day slaves are those who work in American diplomats' households across the world. And these are American government documents. Yes, Pavan Verma, please complete.
Then we must expose
No,
that.
and I want to make a third point, Arnab, which should be discussed on your channel. The American viewpoint on this matter is a very one-sided worldview when it comes to the treatment of those who may not even be directly diplomats but associated with the embassy, as in the case of Raymond Davis. They invoke exactly the same provisions and the legalese of the Vienna Convention. And in this particular case, for an envoy to be, as you yourself mentioned, to be handcuffed, to be strip searched, to be cavity searched, it is also because for too long now the government of India has either condoned or ignored gratuitous insults against people who should be covered by diplomatic privilege.
No, I'll tell you.
About people like the ex-president of India,
it's time to share a few
ministers, ambassadors serving in the US.
It's time to share a few home truths. As I go across to Kanwal Sibal and C Singh and Sheshadri Chari, I'm coming to you in a minute. You know, I'm sorry for the delay. The home truth is, Kanwal Sibal, according to a recent report, and really, I think this part of the telecast should be shown all across America. Grades 1 to 3 of domestic help, or those who are staff of American diplomats, earn less than $1 a day. Their meals are cut down to 1 meal a day. Their salaries which they pay their domestic staff are short of official poverty levels. Do you want me to tell you more? This should embarrass every single American.
Then we must expose them and take action.
Well, we are exposing them. That's what we are doing. There's such double standards. I haven't seen it anywhere in the world. Every single country, self-respecting country, would treat people better than American diplomats do. Who on earth are they to lecture us in the way that they are doing tonight? Kanwal Sibal, your response.
Well, you know, a few things that we must note. First of all that needed to be said has already been said, and all the salient points have been made. The fact is that the U.S. charge sheet itself says that Devyani was paying rupees 30,000 per month to the maid. Along with that, obviously, travel from India, medical expenses, accommodation, food, if you add up all that, it's a pretty tidy sum. But even if you take just 30,000, in terms of salary structures in India, in terms of salary structures of our diplomats abroad, the relationship of this to our per capita income, this is a very handsome sum. And this is not very much below what our service staff, India-based service staff, drivers, chauffeurs, security guards and others get. So the Americans don't bother if Indian diplomats are paid far below American diplomatic staff gets paid, or our service staff gets far less paid than American service staff. But when it comes to domestic staff, then America, State Department, all these people are up in arms. There's some grave injustices being committed, and slave trade. This is nonsense. This kind of artificial moral outrage is repugnant to common sense. And why is the U.S. Embassy then giving visas on official passports when they know very well, as the U.S. charge states, that Devyani was going to give her $4,500 a month?
Yeah, ridiculous.
Are they foolish? Are they naive?
They knew all this.
Don't they have their feet on the ground?
They knew all this.
That this is wrong, and they should have refused to give the visa. But it was a practical solution that was found between the Ministry of External Affairs and the embassy, that since our diplomatic personnel carry domestic staff which are necessary for their functioning, and for hiring local staff they don't get sufficiently paid, that if the letter of the law is observed, and they will issue the visas, which they have been doing. Now this time, whether it is the overactive, whether it's overactive Preet, whatever his name is, that person of Indian origin, that attorney, who seems to have some kind of a vengeful feeling towards India. And we have unfortunately also a person of Indian origin who is now the Assistant Secretary of State. And both probably have great chips on their shoulders, and they want to prove that they are more American than the Americans.
That's the point. You see, there are I want to actually know tonight. I want to know tonight. Can I just say one thing? I want to know tonight what Fareed Zakaria thinks about this. I want to know tonight what Fareed Zakaria thinks about this. I want to know tonight what those who are from India and who are commentators and diplomats and writers and journalists and others, in America, what they feel about. Why have they all of them gone silent on this issue? I'd like to go to C Singh and Sheshadri Chari tonight. Sheshadri Chari, can I draw you in? Sheshadri Chari, can I draw you in? Yes, Shamina. Here the other side, Shamina. Here the other side. The complete American hypocrisy in this case must be laid out bare. Yes, C Singh.
Well, let me add to what Mr. Verma and Ambassador Sibal have said. I will not repeat that. But some of the, I've been checking around, and one of the information that I have got, which is reliable, is that this is not a bottom-up case Obama administration has been having a human trafficking cell in the State Department and in the Justice Department, and they've been snooping around for a long time, and they have really not managed to get hold of many cases. So this came to their notice. So this has been driven from the top. And that
no, for what
part of the
driven from the top for what? For what? What were they trying to
emotion
prove?
Which is behind it. This had all the clearances from the Justice Department, etc. at the top, and then it has come to New York. So it is not Barara driven. The state attorney has got it later. This came to the notice of the State Department, and it's been driven around Washington.
No, but why? Why would? No, for what reason? Your facts are wrong. Your case is wrong. It's a case of blackmail. It's a case actually of the abuse of the system by this lady.
Come in. You know, when the visa holder is subject to the laws of this country and they make a complaint against an employer, the authorities must take action. And it's part of the law.
I didn't even finish.
Let him finish. Let him finish, Shamina. Let him. Shamina, let me tell you. No, 1 second. Shamina, you know what?
Johnny is not the only employer.
Tahmina, 1 second. First of all,
that an employer has a criminal penalty in many circumstances.
Tahmina, I'll tell you what is a criminal penalty. Now, please hear me and let C Singh complete. When the cost of rice for an average family who an American diplomat, hires to help them at home across the world is equal to half the monthly wages for over 60% of the staff. That's the kind of subhuman treatment which you give. Employees paying at least $250 a month for a single room apartment have a salary of $250 to $400 a month. That's how pathetically Americans treat their staff worldwide. You know what, Tahmina? You're an immigration attorney. Go and file cases against every single hypocritical American diplomat before trying to do this with an Indian. Now, please listen to C Singh. He was completing his point. C.
The point is, if this is a simple case of visa fraud in New York, why did the US Embassy give visas to the husband and the child? This is being driven from an entirely different level. It's an entirely different approach to the subject. Now, these are either non-governmental organizations outside or some evangelical groups or within the State Department itself and the Justice Department. They're trying to make a case out of it. They're trying to set an example. The way it has been done, it's been done with the intention of setting an example, and that is why the State Department came out with a very blasé statement 2 days ago, from which they've had to back off today, and now they're trying to work their way backwards. But the damage is done. The damage to India-US relations, which have been consolidated over the last 10, 11, 12 years, has been tremendous over the last 48 hours. And I don't think the State Department has still understood it. And the fundamental point is that this is a diplomat who has abided by whatever understanding she had with the domestic. And this is incidentally, Arnab, the 4th case in the last 2 years. There's a consul general who had to settle with for $75,000. There's another officer who left with $1.5 million of penalty, which is still pending. So I think it's become a precedent there. Some of these domestics think they can run away, and then the lawyers get hold of them, and they can start suing for more money. So we got 4 of these cases in the last 2 to 3 years. In fact, I'd like to know the former ambassador Nirupma Rao's now come back. I don't see why she's not in front of the camera.
No, you see,
she needs to explain. She's a former foreign secretary.
Sheshadri Chari,
to explain how these 4 cases took place and what is it that the embassy has done to take care of it.
Sheshadri Chari, and I'm really sorry to come to you so late. Sheshadri Chari, I want you to directly respond to Sarosh Zaiwalla, who is a senior lawyer and he's in London. I'll read out what he says in his statement, and I want you to respond to him. He says, the Indian mindset of servant culture needs to change along the changing world. Indians need to work towards abolishing this culture, which has its root in the colonial era of the past. In the Devyani case, he says the alleged breach of US law relates to the protection of the rights of a weaker human being, which should be recognized in India. And then he talks about a fuss around this case. In other words, Sarosh Zaiwalla, who's joining us from London, assumes that Indians have this problem. Indians treat their domestic help and servants badly. Your response to Mr. Zaiwalla, please. And Mr. Zaiwalla, I'll get you to respond to Sheshadri Chari on the other side.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Arnab, in the first place...
Who has to respond?
Arnab, in the first place, I don't think this kind of a stupid argument needs to be rebutted at all. I don't think such a stupid argument needs to be responded at all. In the first place, the American Immigration Department gave her visa not as a slave, but as an official who is going to assist another senior official in the US. And moreover, we have always been treating this case as if the visa application form makes an appeal that she is getting $4,000 as salary. It is wrong. The visa application clearly mentions the name of the employer and the total salary drawn by the employer.
Yes, it does.
Here, her employer incidentally happens to be Devyani, who is drawing $4,000.
Right.
Therefore, it is not a misstatement as far as visa application form is concerned on behalf of Devyani. This visa application form has been done by this lady who is the original criminal and a culprit. She has foisted this case on Devyani. The Americans have screwed up the case badly. They need to quietly apologize, take back the case and close the case in their own best interest. India does not have an ambassador in the US as of now. Former ambassador of the US has come, Indian ambassador has returned, and the present ambassador to China has been designated as ambassador to US. No, I think government of India should stop his appointment immediately and tell the US that we don't require an ambassadher as long as your State Department decides how to deal with diplomats.
I agree with you. So first of all,
can I respond?
No, 1 second. I think Mr. Zaiwalla should respond because Sheshadri Chari, who heads the Foreign Affairs Cell of the BJP, says, Mr. Zaiwalla, with respect, and I'm only quoting him, he says that your argument is, with respect, and I'm quoting him, a stupid argument. Your response, would you like to revise your argument and respond to Mr. Chari?
Yeah. I am saying it is a stupid argument.
He says it's a stupid argument. Let him respond now.
Yeah, very well. Well, I'm not going to be taken in by use of rude words, but the position is this, that today, even in England, there have been so many cases where Saudi Arabian embassy staff has been arrested because of not treating the servants well. In fact, one of the diplomats has been put on trial because he beat up one of the servants. Now, are you saying that in such a case, the local law should not be respected?
Arnab Goswami, we are more interested about the Devyani case. We are not interested in what happens in UK. Don't waste our time talking about UK and Arab countries. Please talk about what the United States has done to one of our biggest diplomats. Please.
Mr. Zaiwalla should be allowed one response
today. Let's look at it in a rational... But will you allow me to speak then? Let's talk about it rationally.
Please explain the rationale. Please explain the rationale. Please explain the rationale behind US Act.
Well, if the US...
Is this the way you behave with an Indian diplomat, woman diplomat, especially when she goes to school to leave her child in the school?
But we are making too much about this diplomacy business. Diplomacy was all right 70 years ago, but we have to move on. And the law has to be interpreted. Vienna Convention.
The question is not the diplomacy.
One world now.
No, today, for example,
the US.
No, today, for example,
the US.
What's it?
No, the US State Department. US State Department could have explained this to the Indian Foreign Secretary who was in the State Department 1 week ago. Why did not the State Department consult the Indian Foreign Secretary?
I want to get back now. 1 second.
Yeah, but.
No, there was no consultation, unilateral action. We'll teach the Indians a lesson. Mr. Zaiwalla, don't you understand this?
But that is a different issue altogether.
No, the fact is, I'm sorry I'm going to have to say this.
Altogether, but
you see, Mr. Zaiwalla, for far too long, our great country...
You're not letting me speak.
Mr. Zaiwalla, there's something bigger in this. First of all, you're making an assumption about Indian culture.
Of course, I'm an Indian too.
But Mr. Zaiwalla, then you should know the Americans are the most racist.
I'm not justifying...
The Americans...
I'm not justifying what they did.
The Americans are the most racist.
And please listen to me, I'm not justifying what they did.
No, but what I'm saying, Mr. Zaiwalla, you say that...
What I'm saying is that please do not make a diplomatic immunity as a very big thing.
You know something,
what
Mr.
happens
Zaiwalla?
If a diplomat commits a crime in
Mr.
America?
Zaiwalla, today...
Why should we not make it a big thing? Please tell me. Why should we not make it a big thing? Please tell me. Diplomatic, it's not a question of just diplomatic immunity, Arnab Goswami, please remember.
Of course we should.
Even if you are not a diplomat,
now watch it,
is
Mr.
this
Chari,
the way to treat a
Kanwal
woman?
Sibal and C Singh are back in the debate.
Is this
Kanwal
your
Sibal
culture?
wants to respond to you. Kanwal Sibal to Sarosh Zaiwalla. C Singh, I'm coming to you after that.
My dear friends, the world is changing.
May I make, let me make a couple of points.
Certainly.
First of all, I don't know how well off Mr. Zaiwalla is or he is not. But if he's reasonably well off, I'm sure he has a maid. And if he were to tell me that Americans don't employ maids, and there are no rich Americans and not so rich Americans who employ Hispanic maids, and many of the illegal Hispanic immigrants are employed as maids. If he were to tell me that the American embassy officials in India don't employ local servants, now if they do, is it that they have a certain culture which is very different from ours?
It's a good question.
So this is a nonsensical argument. It's a nonsensical argument. Number two.
I'm sorry to have to break this up. I'm going to take a break and come back in 3 minutes, and Secy Singh is also coming back. Gentlemen, only because I have to take a break. The debate is getting very interesting. Secy, thank you for your patience. Don't look at your watch because I want you on. And Kanwal Sibal and Mr. Zaiwalla, Mr. Sheshadri Chari. Tahmina, don't look upset. It is a fact that the Americans are the most racist and unfair to their domestic staff worldwide. When I come back on the other side, I will tell you why I think so. Back in a few minutes. Now, we're talking about double standards here. I just want to make one point before I go back to Kanwal Sibal. The question is, do the work permit laws which require the domestic help of Devyani to get paid more than her employer, do they apply to her? Now, Article 47 of the Vienna Convention for Consular Relations, according to it, private staff of consular officers and consular employees are exempt from, quote, any obligations in regard to work permits imposed by laws and regulations of the receiving state concerning the employment of foreign labor. So the work permit laws probably do not apply in this case to Sangeeta Richards, who is the domestic help of Devyani. So the case itself doesn't stand, which makes the way Devyani is being treated all the more abhorrent. Kanwal Sibal.
Yeah, I was saying that U.S. embassies and U.S. consulates are sovereign U.S. territories. The U.S. per capita income is $50,000 or $60,000.
Yeah.
How much do they pay their Indian staff and their Indian servants that they employ here? They should observe their own laws and minimum wage standards which they want to apply on us, at least on American territory here, which they don't. And one of the charms for these fellows to come here is, in fact, that they get services very cheap, cheap. That's one.
Yeah.
The secondly is that we have asked the embassies and the U.S. embassy and consulates to tell us how much they are paying their Indian staff, etc., etc. But I can guarantee you they will never answer this question because it will be self-incriminating and they will expose themselves.
Yesterday...
Thirdly, insofar as diplomatic immunities is concerned, it is the Americans who are most attached to privileges and immunities. They walked out of Iraq because they couldn't get immunities for their military people and other people serving there. They are willing to walk out of Afghanistan unless they can get certain kinds of immunities which are a derogation of the sovereignty of Afghanistan. In U.S. military bases in Turkey, where I had served, it's the U.S. law applies, not Turkish law.
No,
you mentioned the case of Raymond Davis. Earlier, it was President Obama who claimed diplomatic immunity. This whole business of diplomatic immunity was actually organized by Western countries so that their diplomats could operate without fear of pressure or arbitrary detentions or other things in countries where they felt the rule of law was not very strong. But now you find countries like the United States are misusing and abusing these conventions.
But Kanwal Sibal, even if I cut some slack...
So it's not India. If tomorrow they have a...
Even if I cut some slack to the hypocritical Americans, given the fact that they are probably genetically better equipped to be masters of slavery. After all, they have been professionals in the art of slavery for so many centuries. You know what I think, Tahmina, modern day slavery is? I think it is modern day slavery to pay, for example, an Indian person who holds a position like political advisor with a foreign mission, 1/5 of the salary that you would pay an American. I think it is modern day slavery that you pay Indians, fully qualified Indians in proper white-collar jobs, 1/3, 1/4 or 1/5 of the salary you would pay an American. That's slavery. I don't think, Casey, tell me, if an Indian embassy hires, 1 minute, if an Indian embassy hires a...
Salaries are probably being maintained. So whatever employees they have, wherever they have them in the world, my guess is that the local salaries are being maintained.
You know what? That is so laughable, Tahmina. You know what the local salaries are? Grades 1 to 3 earn less than $1 a day. Children of domestic staff are removed from school. The meals they have 1 meal a day. Children are sent to sell water or toiletries on the streets. 1 minute. 1 minute. Let me tell you the truth, and don't get touchy about it, Tahmina. Listen to me, please. Unless you don't want to listen to the bitter truth, I will make you listen to the bitter truth tonight.
Maid is in the US, and the promise was made for a certain amount in salary. It doesn't have to be more than what Ms. Devyani was getting paid herself. It's only a fair salary.
I'll tell you what's worse. I have this official report, and you know what it says? It says it is entirely unfair to see American colleagues receive a January salary increase year after year, and they, that is the domestic staff, receive nothing for 5 years and counting. Not only do you not pay them, treat them like slaves, but you don't even increase their salary once every 5 years. So you know what? Don't give me that high moral ground nonsense. Enough moralizing from America to the world, Tahmina. Tahmina, you will be judged by the rules you try to throw at others. Right? That's what's happening here. Casey, so Casey, how long should we push the Americans, and what should we get out of them now?
I think it's time they realize that this is doing tremendous harm to India-US relations. This is the Democratic Party's human trafficking agenda, which has gone haywire. They're just applying it selectively and applying it unthinkingly, because even as Mr. Sibal explained, you take the package of this maid. It's not just the salary. You take the package of the maid, which is health, food, and everything. It comes very close to the minimum, the minimum wage prescribed in New York. So why are we running away from this? We can face this. She's being paid according to certain standards, which are not at variance with New York standards. And secondly, please remember that we are not claiming absolute immunity for our consulate staff. We are saying that as per the convention itself, she should only be tried for a grave crime. Now, we were given the example in England of somebody caning his servant. No, Devyani was not caning a servant. The servant just ran away. Yes, if somebody commits a crime, it's understandable that you start applying the local law. But here we are talking of wage dispute. When is just a minute, Arnab, when is wage dispute a severe crime? And secondly, it is prescribed in the same convention that you must treat the person with respect. Is this the treatment?
Tahmina, do you know what happens?
Is this a crime? A wage dispute? Wage dispute is a crime.
Tahmina,
Act which protects any employee, particularly under an A3 visa.
Is it a grave crime? I just want to ask you, Madam Lawyer.
Tahmina, you are a
lawyer.
Tahmina,
Madam Lawyer, is a wage dispute a severe crime? Do you go around sending people to jail for wage disputes in America?
It can be. In this particular situation.
Oh, really? Will it?
Department of Homeland Security can monitor what an A3
so I want to then ask you this, Tahmina. One sec. Please, let's be rational here. I don't want to, I hope that the same standards of civilized behavior, apply to our nation as they do to the United States of America, despite the fact that the United States of America has the world's most enviable record as a country which has promoted slavery and double standards for years. Despite that, I hope there is some element of civilized conduct we can expect from the Americans. My question is, Tahmina, tell me, you are saying for a wage dispute you can be strip searched and you can have a cavity search, A cavity search, by the way, includes a physical examination when you are stripped naked and every single orifice of your body, and I'm not going to go into details, is looked into, so that there is a detailed physical inspection of your naked body. So Miss Tahmina Watson from Seattle, please tell me that every time there is a wage dispute in America, are all those Americans stripped, their clothes taken off? No, 1 minute, allow me to complete, please, ma'am, I've listened to you. I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you, ma'am. It's my turn to speak. I request you, please.
They are.
I'm asking you today, that I want to know from you whether in your country, and allow me to speak, Tahmina.
And it's not my
Tahmina, you don't want to hear the difficult. I'll tell you what happens. There is a complete and detailed search and an inspection of the prisoner's naked body, including body cavities.
And
that is what she went through.
Investigation.
That is what she went through. And I want to know from you, Tahmina, if you care to listen, that if a lady American diplomat were to be strip searched in that demeaning manner, I want to know whether Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama would be quiet tonight. And if they would not have been, what has caught their tongue tonight? Embarrassment or shame?
Well,
so, let's be a little...
May I interrupt? May I come in?
But my guess the standard procedures may have been...
It's not standard procedure. This is standard procedure in an uncivilized country. Sarosh Zaiwalla wants to come in. Sarosh.
Arnab,
Sheshadri Chari, I'll give you the last word.
I entirely agree that
Arnab, please.
I entirely agree with you that if she had been cavity searched and strip searched, then it is condemnable and it is totally unnecessary. And I think somebody has overreacted in the New York police. And the way forward is to rationally take it up with the United States government that this was wrong and action must be taken with the police officer who did that. Because how can a lady have a strip search and a cavity search for a dispute regarding something about human rights? I agree with you entirely.
C Singh says State Department complicit. C.
No.
Sheshadri Chari first. Sheshadri Chari.
But the way to do that is...
Sheshadri Chari, final comment. Sheshadri Chari.
Arnab, it is not an aberration at the lower level of some New York State Department, Police Department. This has come from the highest department. The State Department knew of this case at least 3 months in advance, and the State Department kept it under wraps. Therefore, it is absolute fallacy to say. And Arnab, please don't waste your time educating half a dozen Indian Americans who think it is their life mission to serve the white men there in New York. Therefore, you are wasting your time, and you are wasting the time of all your people also. It's plain and simple. It is plain and simple. If the Americans understand this language, and if they don't want to value, if they don't want to value diplomatic niceties, give it back to them in the same language.
No, one second. You know what I'm saying tonight,
we did it with the Italian Marines.
All I'm saying tonight, Mr. Chari, take me one thing. All I'm saying, there are some Indians and people of so-called Indian origin.
Yes.
The Indians and Indians of Indian origin in the United States of America who like to lecture everyone, including Indians in India, about ethics, democracy, values, etc., etc. I'm asking tonight, Mr. Preet Brahara, Miss Nisha Desai Biswal, and for that matter, Mr. Fareed Zakaria, who's quiet on this, where do they stand on this? I want a public statement from these individuals whose voice carries clout. Why are they quiet tonight? Is it because Fareed Zakaria does not want to upset some Americans, or Preet Brahara does not want to upset some Americans? At the end of the day, sensitivities and basic logic must count for something. C Singh, what do you think?
It has to be reciprocal. That is the basic thing. I was just now on an international channel. They asked me, you remove the security blocks from behind the US Embassy. I said they were blocking a public road.
Yeah.
You have French ambassadors, their neighbor, to get to the French ambassador, you go around the block.
Yeah.
Now, these were special concessions. We'll give them what is due, not what is additional. Because this is, if they want to throw the book at you, then we throw the book back, because all diplomacy is based on reciprocity.
Absolutely. And the last word tonight to Kanwal Sibal.
Two things, Arnab. First of all, this reference to standard operating procedures is an obfuscation, because I have been told what these procedures are. There are 4 degrees of these procedures. The first is simply a pat down. And the fourth and the most extreme is cavity search, which is reserved for hardened criminals or those who have a tendency to commit suicide and things like that. So for anybody to say that the New York police observe standard operating procedures is actually an untruth. Number 2, what I suggest, and I say this seriously, since there has been wrongful charges wrongfully made, violation of conventions, wrongful confinement, wrongful bodily harm, we should get warrants of arrest issued by an Indian court for all those in the
yes, I support that.
All those involved in the decision making.
You support that, absolutely, absolutely.
On this case,
you support that, Mr. Chari?
And obviously they won't appear here, but at least we will prevent them from visiting India.
You support that, Mr.
Yes,
Chari?
I totally support it. I totally support it.
I respectfully
absolutely, I support it 100%. Not only that, I also say, I would also say here that in this situation, we should not be sending our ambassador to the US unless they tender an unconditional apology and close the case beautifully.
I put that question. I put that question to everyone, and tonight, we will continue to expose on Times Now the extent of humiliation that American diplomats around the world heap on their domestic stuff. I think we need a series of exposés on that. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on that debate.